nothing needs to be solved tonight? What if the reason it is hard to rest is not that something is wrong, but that the mind is still trying to finish a day that has already ended? The room is quiet, the hour has grown late, yet somewhere inside, a small committee may still be meeting. One voice is reviewing what should have been said, another is arranging tomorrow, another is holding up an old mistake as if it were a problem that could be solved by looking at it one more time. But tonight, there is no meeting you need to attend. There is no inner report you need to complete. The day has closed in the only way a day can close, not perfectly, but completely. Before we settle in, you are welcome to leave the hour and the place where you are listening. There is something comforting in remembering that, across many different rooms and many different nights, people are setting down the same invisible weight. You do not need to know anything about Buddhism to listen. You do not need to believe anything, achieve anything, or hold your attention in a special way. If a sentence helps, let it stay for a while. If it does not, let it pass like a sound in another room. For the next little while, we will sit beside a quiet river and consider a simple possibility. Perhaps peace is not the reward at the end of solving everything. Perhaps peace begins the moment we stop demanding that this moment become another one. Take a slow breath without trying to make it deep. Feel the body receiving the bed, the chair, or the floor beneath you. Notice that you are already being held. You did not have to earn the support of gravity. You did not have to persuade the night to arrive. There is an old Buddhist image of an open hand. A closed hand can hold one thing, but it must keep working to hold it. An open hand holds nothing, yet it can receive the whole world. Cool air, warm light, rain, the touch of another hand. The open hand is not empty in a sad way. It is empty in a useful way. It is available. Let your hands rest as they are. If they are curled, allow the fingers to loosen by one small degree. There is no need for a dramatic release. The body understands quiet instructions. Nothing needs to be solved tonight. The unfinished conversation can remain unfinished. The uncertain future can remain uncertain. The person you are becoming does not need to arrive before you are allowed to sleep. For now, breathing is enough. Listening is enough. Being here is enough. Let us begin. The day has already ended. Imagine a traveler reaching an inn after walking all day through wind and dust. He enters the room, closes the door, and places his pack on the floor. But when he lies down, he keeps the straps over his shoulders. The innkeeper notices and asks, gently, why he is sleeping with the pack still tied to him. The traveler says, I may need these things tomorrow. Of course you may, the innkeeper replies, but tomorrow is not asking you to carry them tonight. This small imaginary story describes something many of us do. The body arrives at night, but the mind keeps its pack on. It carries names, appointments, doubts, plans, and old scenes into bed. It says, these things may matter tomorrow, so I must hold them now. Yet holding tomorrow in advance does not make tomorrow safer. It only makes tonight heavier. In Buddhist teaching, suffering is often compared to the extra weight created by clinging. Pain may come, difficulty may come, responsibility may come, but clinging adds a second burden, the belief that we must keep the whole experience under constant mental supervision. You can care deeply without supervising every possible future. You can be responsible without remaining tense. You can remember what matters and still place the pack on the floor. Think of the day that has just passed. It may have contained good moments, awkward moments, ordinary moments, and perhaps one or two moments that keep returning. Notice how the mind selects certain scenes and holds them close. It rarely replays the simple moment when you washed a cup or opened a door. It chooses the unfinished moment, the uncertain look, the sentence with two possible meanings. The mind does this because it is trying to protect you. It believes that repetition will produce control. If it reviews the scene enough times, Perhaps it can prevent embarrassment, loss, or surprise. The intention is protective. The effect is exhausting. There is no need to fight this protective mind. Fighting it would create another meeting, another task. Instead, you can thank it quietly. You can say, "I know you are trying to help. We can look again tomorrow if we need to. For now, the day has ended." The phrase is simple, but the nervous system may need to hear it more than once. The day has ended. Not everything was completed, but the day was completed. Not every question was answered, but the hours were answered by passing. Not every feeling found a name, but the evening came anyway. We often imagine closure as a perfect final sentence. Real closure is usually quieter. The shop closes with boxes still in the back room. The garden rests with weeds still in the soil. The house becomes dark with one cup still beside the sink. Life does not wait for perfection before moving into night. Perhaps you can allow yourself the same kindness. If there is something you must remember tomorrow, imagine placing it on a small table near the door. You are not throwing it away. You are giving it a place. The mind relaxes when it knows a concern has been acknowledged. You might picture a folded note. On it are the few words you need. Make the call, answer the message, begin again. Place the note down. There is nothing more you can do with it while lying here. Now notice the pack on your shoulders. You do not need to identify everything inside. Just feel the idea of the straps loosening. Feel the weight moving from your body to the floor. The floor is strong enough to hold it. The night is wide enough to contain what you have not resolved. Tomorrow, if it comes in the ordinary way, you can lift what is needed. You may even find that some objects in the pack were never yours. You may find that one worry has become smaller in the morning light. You may find a different answer because you allowed the mind to rest. Wisdom does not always arrive through effort. Sometimes it arrives because effort stopped long enough for a quieter understanding to be heard. For now, let the pack remain on the floor. Let the shoulders be empty. Let the day be over. The unfinished garden. There was once a gardener who cared for a small courtyard behind a monastery. Each morning, he swept the stones, watered the herbs, and trimmed the edges of the path. He loved the work because it was quiet and clear. A dry plant needed water. A fallen branch needed moving. A seedling needed space. One spring, he decided the garden should become perfect. He began rising earlier. He inspected every leaf for damage and every stone for moss. When rain bent the flowers, he felt defeated. When birds scattered seeds into the path, he became angry. The garden was more beautiful than it had ever been, but the gardener no longer saw beauty. He saw only the distance between what was there and what he believed should be there. An older monk watched this for several weeks. One evening, as the gardener continued working after dark, the monk carried a lantern into the courtyard. "What are you looking for?" the monk asked. The gardener replied, "The place where the work is finished." The monk lifted the lantern. Moths circled the light. Water shone on the leaves. A single fallen petal rested on the swept path. "There is no such place in a living garden," he said. "Finished gardens are made of stone." The next morning, the gardener still watered the herbs. He still swept the path, but he left the fallen petal where it was. This is an imagined story, but the lesson is an old one. Everything alive remains unfinished. A tree is unfinished while it grows, and unfinished while it sheds its leaves. A relationship is unfinished because two people continue changing. A mind is unfinished because each moment gives it new conditions. We sometimes treat unfinishedness as proof that we have failed, but unfinishedness is not a flaw in life. It is the shape of life. Consider your own inner garden. There may be habits you hoped would be gone by now. There may be tenderness you thought would have become strength, or grief you expected to have completed its work. You may look at yourself with the gardener's tired eyes and see only the distance between who you are and who you imagined you would be. The Buddhist path does not ask us to turn ourselves into finished statues. It asks us to see conditions clearly and respond with care. This habit arose from conditions. This fear is being fed by conditions. This kindness can grow when it is watered. The emphasis is not on condemnation, it is on understanding. A plant leaning toward the window is not morally wrong, it is responding to light. When you see the light it has been reaching for, you can turn the pot gently. In the same way, many of our patterns make more sense when we see what they were reaching toward: safety, approval, belonging, relief. You do not have to shame a pattern in order to change it. You can understand its direction and offer it a wiser source of light. But none of this needs to be completed tonight. Tonight, you are not renovating the whole garden. You are placing down the tools. Notice whether the mind is searching for one more weed to pull, one more memory to analyze, one more flaw to correct before rest is permitted. Let the lantern move slowly across the courtyard. See the leaves as they are. See the moss on the stone. See the fallen petal. There is room for all of it. Perfection is a still picture. Life is weather, growth, decay, return. The garden does not apologize for changing in the rain. The river does not believe it has failed because it cannot hold one shape. You too are allowed to be a living process. The fact that you are unfinished means that new understanding is possible. It means the pain of today is not the final form. It means a small act of patience can still become a different future. So let this be enough for the night. One honest breath, one unclenched hand, one moment in which you do not turn yourself into a project. The tools can remain beside the path. The weeds will not take over before morning. The moon does not require the garden to be perfect before it shines. The two arrows. One of the clearest images in early Buddhist teaching is the image of two arrows. The first arrow is the pain that life brings. The second arrow is the pain the mind adds. The first arrow may be disappointment, illness, conflict, loneliness, or loss. It may be as small as a delayed message or as large as a life-changing event. The teaching never says the first arrow is imaginary. Pain hurts. Difficulty is difficult. The second arrow is made of resistance and story. It says this should not be happening. It says this always happens to me. It says because I feel this way now, I will feel this way forever. It turns a painful moment into a courtroom, and then it asks the tired mind to serve as judge, witness, and accused. Tonight you do not need to deny the first arrow. You only need to notice when the second one is being prepared. Perhaps something happened today that hurt. Begin by naming it in the simplest language you can. Not the whole story, not the verdict, just the fact. There was tension, there was disappointment, there was uncertainty, there was a moment when I felt alone. Simple language leaves room around an experience. The mind often uses complicated language to make pain feel permanent. It builds a tower of explanation. But beneath the tower, there may be one tender fact asking to be felt. If you can, offer that fact a little warmth. You do not have to approve of what happened. Compassion is not approval. Compassion is the decision not to add cruelty to pain. Imagine a child arriving at the door in the rain. You would not lecture the child for being wet. You would bring a towel. In the same way, when a feeling arrives soaked in difficulty, the first wise response may be simple shelter. You can say, "Yes, this hurts. Come inside for a moment." The second arrow often appears because we are afraid that kindness will make us weak. We think if we stop criticizing ourselves, we will never improve. Yet harshness rarely creates clear seeing. It creates hiding. A frightened mind becomes defensive. A mind met with patience can finally tell the truth. This does not mean every thought deserves belief. A feeling can be welcomed without being placed in charge. You can make room for fear and still choose carefully. You can acknowledge anger and still keep it from speaking through your mouth. The open hand is not a helpless hand, it is simply not clenched. Notice whether the body is holding the second arrow. The jaw may be rehearsing an argument. The stomach may be bracing against a future that is not here. The shoulders may be lifting as if to protect the heart. Let the exhale be longer than the inhale just once. There is no need to force the muscles. Offer them information. The event is not happening in this room right now. The memory is present, but the moment itself has passed. The body may take time to believe this. That is all right. You are not demanding immediate peace. You are creating conditions in which peace can return. The first arrow belongs to life. The second is optional, though it may feel automatic. Each time you notice it, the choice becomes a little more visible. Not tonight, you can say. One arrow is enough. If the mind raises an old accusation, let it lower the bow. If it predicts a difficult morning, remind it that morning has not arrived. If it insists that your pain proves something terrible about you, place a hand near the heart and return to the simplest fact: a human being was hurt. Human beings heal more easily when they are not being attacked from within. For the rest of this night, let compassion stand guard at the door. Pain may enter, stories may knock, but no second arrow needs to be fired. Weather of the mind. Some evenings the mind feels like a clear sky. Thoughts appear with space around them, and even difficult things can be seen without panic. Other evenings the mind feels like weather moving across a mountain, low cloud, sudden wind, rain striking the windows. The mountain does not take the weather personally. It does not say, "I was calm yesterday, so this storm means I have failed." It does not chase the cloud or beg the wind to stay. It receives each condition, and because it does not become the condition can move. This is not because the mountain is cold or indifferent. It is because the mountain is larger than the weather. You are larger than tonight's mental weather too. A thought is an event in awareness. A feeling is an event in the body. A mood is a pattern of conditions. None of these is small or meaningless, but none is the whole of you. Language can help us remember this. Instead of saying, "I am anxious," try hearing the gentler sentence, "Anxiety is here," instead of, "I am lost," perhaps. Uncertainty is passing through. The change is small, but it opens a window. It allows the experience to be present without becoming an identity. Buddhist teaching often invites this kind of careful observation. Seeing is happening, hearing is happening, thinking is happening. The aim is not to become distant from life. It is to meet life before the mind hardens each moment into me and mine. When rain touches the river does not keep a separate account of every drop. The drops join the movement. In the same way, many thoughts lose their sharp edges when they are allowed to join the larger movement of awareness. You may notice a thought now. It could be practical, strange, repetitive, or unfinished. Do not push it out. Give it a little room. See whether it has a shape, a speed, or a place in the body. Then notice the space around it. There is always more awareness than thought. Even a loud thought appears inside something quiet enough to notice loudness. Even restlessness is known by a part of experience that is not restless. This does not need to become a puzzle. The moment we try to capture awareness, we make another thought. Let it remain simple. Weather is here. The mountain is here too. There is a traditional image of the mind as a guest house. Visitors arrive. Joy enters and leaves. Grief enters and leaves. Irritation comes without wiping its feet. Memory stays longer than expected. The wise host does not confuse the visitor with the house. Tonight your guest house may be busy. You do not need to throw anyone into the street. You also do not need to give every visitor the best room and the only key. Offer a chair, offer quiet. Let the visitors come and go according to their nature. If fear says it must remain awake to keep you safe, thank it for its long service. Tell it there are no decisions to make until morning. If regret begins rearranging the furniture, remind it that the past cannot be repaired at midnight by rehearsing pain. If hope becomes excited and starts planning 100 futures, smile at its energy. Ask it to rest beside the others. The house does not need to become empty before you sleep. It only needs to stop chasing its guests from room to room. Outside, the weather moves over the river. Clouds change the moonlight. Wind touches one bank and then the other. Nothing holds still, and because nothing holds still, no storm can remain forever. Let the mind be weather. Let awareness be the mountain. Let the night be wide enough for both. The empty bowl. A young student once asked a teacher how to make the mind peaceful. The teacher gave him a bowl and asked him to carry it to the well. At the well, the student filled the bowl to the rim. He walked carefully back across the courtyard, but every step sent water over the side. By the time he reached the teacher, the front of his robe was wet and the bowl was only half full. The teacher asked him to return to the well. This time, he said, "Bring me an empty bowl." The student thought the task was pointless, but he obeyed. He carried the empty bowl across the courtyard. His arms were loose, his steps were natural. He heard birds in the roof beams and smelled rice cooking in the kitchen. When he returned, the teacher asked what had changed. "Nothing was spilling," the student said. "And because nothing was spilling, what did you notice?" The student looked back at the courtyard as if seeing it for the first time. This is another imagined teaching story, but it points toward a familiar truth. When the mind is filled to the rim, even a small movement feels dangerous. A minor delay, an unexpected sound, or one additional request can send something over the edge. We become careful in a strained way, protecting the contents of the mind from disturbance. We may believe the answer is to walk more perfectly, but sometimes the answer is to carry less. An empty bowl is often misunderstood. We hear empty and imagine absence, loneliness, or lack. Yet the usefulness of a bowl is its open space. Because it is empty, it can receive water, soup, fruit, or rain. Its emptiness is not a defect, it is its capacity. The same is true of pauses in conversation, blank spaces on a page, and quiet moments in a day. The mind may rush to fill them because open space feels uncertain. But without space, nothing new can arrive. Tonight, consider what has filled your bowl. Perhaps it is a long list of tasks. Perhaps it is information gathered from screens and conversations. Perhaps it is the emotional weather of other people. We carry not only our own unfinished thoughts, but headlines, opinions, advertisements, and the silent expectations of strangers. No wonder the walk across the courtyard feels difficult. You do not have to throw away what matters. Emptying is not rejecting. It is setting things down long enough to discover what actually needs to be carried. Imagine placing one item from the mind beside the bed, then another, a future conversation, an old comparison, the face of someone whose approval you wanted, a rule about where you should be by now. Place them down without deciding whether they are right or wrong. Tonight, they simply do not need to be inside the bowl. Notice what becomes audible as space returns, perhaps the hum of the room, perhaps the small friction of fabric with each breath, perhaps a distant sound that has been there all along. This is what the student discovered. The courtyard was not created by the empty bowl, it became noticeable. Peace may be like that. It may not be manufactured by a special state. It may become noticeable when the mind is no longer filled to the rim. The desire to hold everything can feel like care. If I keep thinking about the people I love, perhaps they will be protected. If I keep thinking about my work, perhaps it will succeed. If I keep thinking about the problem, perhaps it will not surprise me. But love does not disappear when you rest. Responsibility does not disappear when you sleep. The deepest care includes the wisdom to renew the person who cares. Carry the empty bowl now. Feel how little effort it requires. There is nothing to spill, nothing to defend, nothing to balance perfectly. Across the quiet courtyard, the night continues without your management. The moon reaches the well. The birds settle in the roof. Somewhere a pot is covered, and the kitchen grows dark. The bowl is empty. The bowl is ready. For tonight, That is enough. The river carries the leaves. Beside the monastery ran a narrow river. In the dry season it moved slowly between smooth stones. During the rains it grew brown and strong, carrying branches, leaves, and petals from the hills. A child from a nearby village liked to place leaves on the water and run along the bank, watching them travel downstream. One day she chose a bright red leaf, the most beautiful she had seen. She set it on the river, then reached after it when the current began to carry it away. She slipped, soaked her sleeves, and began to cry. An old woman washing cloth nearby helped her back onto the bank. The child said the river had stolen her leaf. The woman looked downstream. The river does not know how to steal, she said. It only knows how to carry. The child watched until the red leaf became a small point of color and then disappeared around the bend. Many years later, when the child had become an old woman herself, she remembered that sentence whenever life changed. The river only knows how to carry. Impermanence is one of the central observations in Buddhism. Everything shaped by conditions changes when conditions change. The teaching is sometimes presented as a warning, but it can also be a comfort. Because things change, pain can move. Because things change, habits can soften. Because things change, the future is not trapped inside the past. We suffer when we ask the river to become a shelf. We place a moment on the current and say, stay exactly like this. We place a person there and say, never change. We place an image of ourselves there and say, remain recognizable to me forever. The request is understandable. Beautiful things awaken the wish to keep them, but the life inside a beautiful thing is the same life that makes it move. The red leaf was beautiful partly because autumn had reached it. Its color was already a form of change. Think of something you have been trying to keep still. It may be a relationship, a role, a plan, or a version of your own body. Notice the tenderness underneath the holding. We cling because we love, because we fear, because we want continuity in a world that keeps becoming new. There is no need to scold the hand that reaches after the leaf. Let the hand feel what it feels, then help it back onto the bank. Letting go does not mean the leaf was unimportant. It means we stop asking importance to defeat time. Memories can remain without becoming ropes. Gratitude can remain without becoming possession. Love can remain, changed by the river but not erased by it. The river carries difficult things too. A harsh sentence spoken years ago may still seem close, as if it is caught between two stones. But even what feels stuck is being touched by new water every moment. You are not the same person hearing the sentence now. The body has breathed thousands of times since then. Other days have joined the stream. Healing does not always look like forgetting. Sometimes it looks like allowing a memory to travel farther from the center of the river. Imagine placing one old scene on a leaf. Do not push it away. Simply set it on the surface. The current will decide the pace. At first it may circle near the bank. It may touch a stone and pause. That is all right. The river is still moving. You do not have to follow the leaf around every bend. You can remain here, listening to water pass. The future is also a leaf. We often run downstream in imagination, trying to catch it before it arrives. But when we leave the bank of the present, we lose the only ground beneath our feet. Return to this breath. It is the part of the river that is touching you now. This breath arrives. This breath changes. This breath leaves without becoming a tragedy. The body trusts impermanence thousands of times each day. It does not demand that one inhale remain forever. It receives, releases, and receives again. Let the mind learn from the lungs. Let the red leaf travel. The river only knows how to carry. Borrowed burdens. In a village at the foot of a mountain, people carried baskets of salt from one side of the valley to the other. The work was difficult, but the path was clear, and the baskets were weighed carefully, so no one carried more than a fair share. One worker, however, often arrived home exhausted beyond the others. His friends noticed that his basket was heavier each evening than it had been in the morning. They discovered that, along the path, he picked up stones. Some stones represented problems he believed his family might face. Some represented the opinions of people he had passed. Some represented mistakes made by friends. Others represented events in distant places that he could not change but felt guilty for not carrying. When asked why he collected them, he said, "If I do not carry these things, who will?" An elder took one stone from the basket and placed it beside the road. "Did the problem disappear?" the worker asked. "No," the elder said, "but now your back is not pretending to be the whole world." Compassion is precious, but compassion without wisdom can become a form of self-harm. We feel the pain of others and imagine that sharing the weight means reproducing the pain inside our own bodies. We believe tension proves that we care. Yet a tense person is not always a helpful person. A mind overwhelmed by every sorrow may lose the steadiness needed for a kind action. Buddhist compassion is often paired with equanimity, a balanced heart. Equanimity is not coldness. It is the strength that allows care to remain present without drowning. It knows that every being owns their actions and walks within conditions larger than any one person can control. You can love someone without carrying their entire path. You can listen without solving. You can offer a hand without climbing into the same hole. Notice whether your basket contains borrowed stones. Perhaps you are carrying a family member's mood. Perhaps you are carrying the possible disappointment of someone who has not even spoken. Perhaps you are carrying a version of the world delivered to you by a glowing screen just before bed. The nervous system does not know that an image came from far away. It receives each alarm as present and close. This is why wise compassion includes boundaries around attention. We cannot offer the heart to every emergency at the same volume, every hour of the day. Placing a stone beside the road does not mean the stone is unreal. It means you are choosing what your body can carry now. Imagine lifting one concern from the basket. Hold it with both hands. Acknowledge its weight, then set it down beside the path. You may return tomorrow and decide on an action. You may send a message, make a donation, apologize, listen, or ask for help. Action has a shape. Worry without action has only weight. Tonight, if no wise action can be taken, rest is the action. Rest makes room for patience. Rest repairs attention. Rest can prevent tomorrow's tired fear from becoming another person's burden. There may also be stones placed in your basket by old expectations. Be easy to manage. Never disappoint anyone. Always know what to do. Keep everyone comfortable. Do not need too much. Do not change your mind. These rules may have helped you belong once. Thank them for what they tried to do. Then test their weight. Belonging that requires the disappearance of your own needs is too heavy for a human back. You are allowed to travel with a fair load. You are allowed to say, "This pain matters, and it is not mine to carry alone." You are allowed to care for the world while remembering that you are one of the beings in it. Feel the straps of the basket loosen. The salt that belongs to this journey may remain. The stones can rest beside the road. The mountain is large. The valley contains many hands. Morning will bring other travelers. For now, let your back be only a back. Let your heart be caring without becoming crushed. The middle string. A musician preparing for a performance tightened the strings of her instrument. One string was pulled so hard that it snapped. Another was left so loose that it made no clear note. The string between them, neither strained nor slack, carried the melody. The Buddha used an image like this when teaching a student who had been practicing with too much force. A string that is too tight cannot make music for long. A string that is too loose cannot make music at all. The path requires attunement. This is the middle way, not a dull compromise between living and not living, but a responsive balance. It avoids extremes that promise control but create suffering. Many of us tighten ourselves through the day. We tighten attention around tasks. We tighten the face to appear capable. We tighten schedules so nothing uncertain can enter. At night, we may try to relax with the same force. We say, I must sleep now. I must stop thinking. I must become peaceful. The command tightens the string again. Sleep cannot be seized. It arrives when conditions allow it, the way a shy animal approaches when the clearing grows quiet. Your work tonight is not to make sleep happen. It is to become less threatening to rest. Notice the effort you may be using to listen. Can hearing happen by itself? Sounds arrive without being pulled. The voice reaches you. The room reaches you. Nothing needs to be collected. Notice the effort around breathing. The breath has continued through every forgotten moment of your life. It does not require supervision now. Too tight may feel like urgency, perfectionism, or the belief that rest must be deserved. Too loose may feel like numbness, collapse, or abandoning the care that life requires. Balance is different from both. Balance says, I will do what can be done, and I will stop when stopping is wise. A farmer who waters a field all night can drown the roots. Care needs rhythm. Effort needs recovery. Even the heart rests between beats. Think of one area where the string has become too tight. Perhaps you have been trying to be understood by someone who is not listening. Perhaps you have been trying to control an outcome that depends on many conditions. Perhaps you have been measuring yourself with a standard no living person could sustain. Loosen by one turn, not enough to abandon the melody, just enough that the string can vibrate. This may mean allowing an email to wait. It may mean letting someone misunderstand you for one night. It may mean doing a good job instead of an impossible job. It may mean accepting that care and control are not the same. Now consider whether another string has become too loose. Is there a small truth you have avoided? A request for help that could be made? A kindness to yourself that keeps being postponed? Balance does not always mean doing less. Sometimes it means directing effort toward what actually matters, but not now. Tonight is for hearing the instrument settle. The body is an instrument shaped by years of experience. It has been tightened by alarms and softened by affection. It remembers voices, rooms, seasons, and losses. Do not demand that it change key at once. Listen to the note it is making. If the note is tired, let tiredness be heard. If the note is lonely, let loneliness be heard without turning it into a prophecy. If the note is peaceful, do not grasp it. Let it fade naturally. Music exists because notes begin and end. A note held forever would not be music. In the same way, a feeling can be complete without being permanent. Neither too tight nor too loose. Breathing and releasing, listening and letting go. The middle string carries the melody into the night. A lamp for others. There is a simple practice in Buddhism called loving kindness. It begins not with a grand emotion, but with a direction of the heart. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. Then the wish widens. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May all beings find ease. The practice does not ask us to pretend we like everyone. It does not erase boundaries or excuse harm. It trains the heart to stop feeding the wish that others suffer. Imagine lighting a small lamp in a dark room. The lamp does not choose one corner and punish another. It gives the light it has. If a wall blocks the light, the lamp does not become angry. It simply continues to shine where it can. You can begin with yourself, though this is sometimes the most difficult place. May I be safe enough to rest. May my body be treated with patience. May my mind be free from unnecessary struggle. These are not claims that everything is safe or easy. They are intentions, like turning a lamp toward a path. If kind words toward yourself feel false, make them smaller. May I suffer a little less. May I stop adding harm for this one breath. May I be allowed to be human tonight. Even a small lamp changes a room. Now bring to mind someone whose presence feels uncomplicated. It could be a friend, a teacher, a child, an animal, or someone who once offered kindness at the right time. You do not need a clear image. A sense is enough. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you sleep without fear. Notice that wishing them well does not reduce the amount of well-being available to you. Kindness is not a substance that becomes scarce when shared. The lamp lights another candle without losing its flame. You might next bring to mind a neutral person, someone seen at a store, a driver in another car, a neighbor whose life you do not know. This person also has nights when the mind will not settle. They also have a body that tires and a heart that has been disappointed. May you have what you need. May you find moments of quiet. May the burdens you carry become lighter. The practice widens our sense of the world. Strangers stop being scenery. They become centers of experience, each moving through joy and difficulty. If a difficult person appears, there is no need to force warmth. Loving kindness is not a performance. You can wish simply that they become free from the confusion that causes harm. You can keep every necessary boundary. May you awaken from the causes of suffering. May I be free from hatred. May neither of us create more pain. Sometimes the most loving act is distance. A lamp placed safely in a window can still offer light. Finally, let the wish expand beyond particular faces. Somewhere a new parent is awake with a crying child. Somewhere a nurse is finishing a long shift. Somewhere a person is hearing difficult news. Somewhere another listener is lying under a different sky, hoping for the same simple permission to rest. May all those who are awake find gentleness. May all those who are afraid feel support. May all those who are lonely remember that loneliness is shared by many hearts. May all beings rest when rest is possible. You do not have to solve their lives. The wish itself shapes the heart that carries it. A mind rehearsing goodwill becomes a different place to sleep than a mind rehearsing conflict. Let the lamp remain small. It does not need to illuminate the whole world. One quiet circle of light is enough. Within that circle, your own body is included. You are not outside the compassion you offer. May you be peaceful tonight. May you be held by what is kind. Through the day, you have answered to many names. Perhaps someone called you a parent, a partner, a friend, a worker, a leader, a student, a neighbor. Perhaps you were the one who knew what to do. Perhaps you were the one who needed help. Perhaps you were praised in one room and misunderstood in another. Each name has its purpose. A name lets the world find us. A role lets people know how we may care for one another. But a role is a garment, not the whole of the one who wears it. Imagine a traveler arriving at a quiet house beside a lake. All day she has worn a heavy cloak sewn with many badges. One badge names her work, one names her family, another names an old success, another bears the shape of a mistake she has never forgiven. At the door, the keeper of the house welcomes her and points to a wooden peg. "You may hang your cloak there," he says. The traveler hesitates. "Without it, how will anyone know who I am?" The keeper smiles. The lake does not need to know your title before it reflects the moon, so she removes the cloak. The badges make a soft sound as it settles against the wall. Underneath, she is simply a breathing human being, warm, tired, alive. She sits beside the lake. Nothing asks for her history. The reeds do not request her credentials. The stones do not rank her accomplishments. The moon does not withdraw its light because of anything she failed to finish. For a while, this feels unfamiliar. Then it feels like relief. We often hold identity very tightly because it seems to promise safety. If I can define myself, perhaps I can defend myself. If I can keep the story consistent, perhaps nothing will surprise me. Yet the self we defend is changing all the time. The body changes, preferences change, knowledge changes. The person who woke this morning is not precisely the person resting here now. This is not a loss. It is freedom from having to remain fixed. Tonight, you do not need to decide who you are forever. You do not need to resolve every contradiction in your character. You can be brave and still need comfort. You can be kind and still have limits. You can have made mistakes and still be worthy of rest. Notice any label that the mind is repeating: the successful one, the disappointing one, the responsible one, the lonely one, the person who should be further ahead. See if you can hear each phrase as only a phrase, a small arrangement of words passing through awareness, useful sometimes, incomplete always. The teachings on not-self do not ask you to disappear. They invite you to stop reducing this living mystery to a name. A flame depends on the wick, the wax, the air, and the hand that lit it. In the same way, this moment of you depends on countless conditions: food, language, sunlight, ancestors, strangers, roads, rain, and care. You are not isolated. You are not a sealed object trying to survive the night alone. Let the breath remind you. Air arrives from beyond the boundary of the body. Air leaves and belongs to the world again, receiving, releasing. No fixed border can be found in the movement. If a roll still feels heavy, imagine placing it beside the traveler's cloak. The caretaker may rest, the achiever may rest, the one who has been strong for everyone may rest, the one still searching for an answer may rest. Nothing important is destroyed by setting a roll down for the night. In the morning, what is needed can be worn again, but now, beside the quiet lake, there is no badge to polish and no story to prove. There is only the moon on the water. There is only this breath. There is only the simple dignity of being alive before every name. In a village near the hills, there was a gate that everyone believed was locked. It stood at the entrance to a peaceful meadow. Beyond it grew soft grass and small blue flowers. A stream moved slowly beneath willow trees. Travelers often stopped at the gate and looked through the wooden bars with longing. Some searched their pockets for a key. Some studied the hinges. Some argued about who had locked it and why. One man spent years drawing plans for a ladder tall enough to climb over. One evening, a tired woman arrived. She had no tools and no plan. She leaned against the gate to catch her breath. It swung open. There had never been a lock. The villagers were astonished. They had mistaken their belief about the gate for the gate itself. The mind can do something similar with rest. It says, "I will be allowed to rest when the work is complete. I will feel peaceful when this problem is solved. I will let go when the other person understands. I will sleep when I can guarantee tomorrow." These conditions seem like locks. We search for keys in plans, explanations, and one more round of thinking. Yet peace is not always hidden behind a solved life. Sometimes the gate opens when we stop pushing against an idea that was never fastened. What condition has your mind placed before rest tonight? Perhaps it says you must understand why something happened. Perhaps it says you must know what comes next. Perhaps it says you should have behaved differently, felt differently, become different by now. You do not need to fight that voice. Fighting is another way of standing at the gate. Simply notice, here is a condition the mind has invented. Then lean gently into the present moment. Feel where the body is supported. Feel the temperature of the air. Hear the nearest sound, then the farthest sound. Notice that this moment is already here without your permission or effort. The gate moves a little. The Buddha often pointed toward direct seeing, not believing every idea about experience, but looking closely at experience itself. Is there danger in this exact breath? Is the whole future present in this room? Is the past happening now, or is there an image of it appearing in the mind? Direct seeing is quiet. It does not need to win an argument. It notices that a thought about tomorrow is a thought occurring tonight. It notices that a memory is being held by awareness now. It notices that the body has already begun the ancient work of returning to balance. You may not be able to change the thought. You may not need to. Let it stand beside the stream like a traveler at the old gate. The meadow does not require certainty. The flowers open without knowing how long the weather will stay clear. The stream turns around stones without deciding where every drop will arrive. Rest can begin under unfinished conditions. This is not giving up on your life. It is giving the mind a pause from guarding every entrance. Wisdom will still be available tomorrow. Responsibility will still have its place. But exhaustion is not the price you must pay to prove that you care. Imagine touching the gate with one hand. No force, no demand, only a gentle willingness to discover whether the barrier is as solid as it seemed. It opens into the meadow. You walk through slowly. The grass receives each step. The stream continues its low song. Behind you, the gate remains open for every part of you that is ready to follow. The worried part may come, the uncertain part may come. Even the part that does not yet believe in rest may come. There is room for all of them beneath the willows. Tonight, peace is not a reward waiting at the end of perfect understanding. It is the meadow that was here all along. A young student once asked how to make the mind become still. His teacher handed him a clear cup filled with water and a spoonful of earth. "Stir it," she said. The student stirred. The water became brown and cloudy. "Now make it clear," said the teacher. The student tried to remove the mud with the spoon. Each movement made the water cloudier. He poured some out and added fresh water, but his hurried hands stirred the sediment again. At last he said, "I cannot do it." The teacher placed the cup on a windowsill. They waited. Slowly, without instruction, the earth settled to the bottom. The water became clear enough for evening light to pass through. The teacher said, "You did not make it clear. You stopped preventing clarity." When thoughts are active at night, we often reach into the mind and try to arrange them. We inspect one memory, then another. We search for the correct conclusion. We try to push away what is unpleasant and hold tightly to what feels safe. The effort is understandable, but it can be like stirring muddy water with a spoon. Stillness is not always something you manufacture. Sometimes it is what remains when interference softens. Imagine your awareness as the cup. Thoughts, sensations, and feelings move within it. Some are bright, some are dark, some are so small that you barely notice them. None of them damage the capacity that contains them. You do not have to remove the contents of the mind to rest. You can let them settle in their own time. Perhaps a thought rises now. Do not follow it to the end. Do not force it away. Feel how it appears, changes, and fades when it is not continually stirred. Then another thought may come. It too can be allowed. The space of awareness is patient. This patience is not indifference. It is a form of trust. The body knows how to breathe without being commanded. The heart knows its rhythm. The nervous system has been practicing return since before you knew the word for calm. Let the jaw be unguarded. Let the tongue rest. Let the small muscles around the eyes stop trying to see the future. If the mind becomes busy again, there is no failure. Muddy water is still water. A restless mind is still held by awareness. Begin again by doing a little less. You might silently say, settling, not settled. Not a demand for a finished state. Settling. A process already underway. The evening light moves through the cup. At the bottom, the earth is not an enemy. It has simply found a place to rest. Your difficult feelings may also be given a place. Sadness can settle without being denied. Anger can settle without being acted out. Uncertainty can settle without being solved. What is allowed to rest no longer needs to circle endlessly asking to be recognized. There is an old temptation to judge meditation by how few thoughts appear. But the deeper practice is often the absence of struggle with what appears. Clear water is lovely. Cloudy water also belongs to the world. Tonight, do not measure the mind. Do not ask whether you are calm enough. Do not compare this night with another night. Place the cup on the windowsill. Let gravity do its quiet work. Let time pass without supervising it. Let awareness remain open, whether the water clears quickly or slowly. Outside, the sky darkens by degrees. No single moment announces that evening has become night. In the same way, you may not notice the exact moment effort becomes ease or wakefulness becomes sleep. You do not need to notice. The water knows how to settle. There was once a house with many windows. Its owner was afraid of the wind. Each morning he walked from room to room checking every latch. If he felt the smallest draft, he pressed cloth into the frame. If he heard a branch move outside, he imagined a storm. Over the years, the air in the house became close and stale. Still, he believed that safety meant allowing nothing to enter. One summer night, the heat was so great that he could not sleep. At last, too tired to continue guarding the house, he opened one window. A cool breeze moved through the room. The curtains lifted and settled. Somewhere outside, rain had touched the earth, and the scent of it entered. The man heard leaves moving in the dark. What he had treated as an intruder felt like the world breathing with him. Our hearts can become houses of closed windows. We try to protect ourselves from disappointment by expecting little. We try to protect ourselves from grief by holding love at a distance. We try to protect ourselves from uncertainty by planning every road. These defenses may have helped us once. They deserve understanding. But protection can become confinement when no window is ever opened. Buddhist practice speaks of non-clinging, yet non-clinging does not mean becoming cold. It means letting experience move through without imprisoning it or being imprisoned by it. A breeze enters, a breeze leaves. The house remains open enough to live in. Notice the area around the heart. There may be no particular sensation. There may be warmth, pressure, emptiness, or a feeling without a name. Whatever is here, meet it as you might approach a window that has been closed for a long time. No sudden movement is required. Perhaps the latch lifts only a little. You can allow one honest breath. You can admit, quietly, that something has been difficult. You can recognize that you wanted to be understood. You can remember that needing care is not a defect in the human heart. The window opens another inch. Compassion begins with this willingness to let life touch us, not overwhelm us, not own us, simply touch us. The cool air does not ask the house to explain its history. It moves through the rooms that are ready. It reaches the dust, the empty chairs, the photographs, and the places that have waited in silence. If grief comes, let it be part of the breeze. If tenderness comes, let that move too. If nothing comes, the open window is still enough. You are not required to feel a certain way in order to heal. Openness is not a performance. It is the absence of forcing the heart closed around this moment. Think of all the beings awake tonight behind their own windows. Someone is caring for a child. Someone is leaving a hospital. Someone is beginning a night shift. Someone is hearing good news. Someone is learning to live with loss. Across distance, countless rooms rise and fall with breath. You are part of this vast, imperfect household. May the breeze that reaches you carry a little kindness toward them. May it carry kindness toward the person you were when you first learned to close the windows. That person was trying to keep the house safe. You can thank them. And tonight, you can let the night air enter. The curtains lift and settle. The leaves move in darkness. The house does not lose itself by opening. It becomes breathable again. A group of travelers came to a wide river. There was no bridge, so they gathered branches, reeds, and rope. Working together, they built a small raft. The crossing was difficult, but the raft held them. At last they reached the farther bank. One traveler lifted the raft onto his back. His companions asked why. "This raft saved me," he said. "It would be ungrateful to leave it behind." So he carried it into the forest. It caught on branches. Its weight slowed every step. What had been useful on the water became a burden on dry land. The teaching of the raft reminds us that even helpful things must sometimes be released. A plan can carry us through uncertainty. A belief can guide us through confusion. A habit can protect us during a difficult season. Yet no strategy is meant for every landscape. Perhaps you are carrying a raft tonight. It may be an explanation you once needed, a way of staying alert, a promise never to depend on anyone, a rule that says you must always be productive, pleasant, prepared, or strong. There is no need to criticize the raft. It helped you cross something. Begin with gratitude. Thank the carefulness that kept you from danger. Thank the ambition that moved you through a hard year. Thank the distance that gave a wound time to close. Thank the questions that led you to the edge of this new shore. Then notice whether you are still on the river. In this room, in this breath, is the raft needed in the same way? The body may still be carrying yesterday's emergency. Shoulders lifted, stomach braced, attention scanning for the next demand. The alarm has ended, but its boat remains strapped to the back. See if one rope can be loosened. Let the shoulders drop a fraction. Let the hands become heavy. Let the surface beneath you carry weight that vigilance has been carrying alone. Releasing a raft does not erase the river. It honors the crossing by allowing the journey to continue. We sometimes cling even to spiritual ideas. We want the perfect method, the correct state, the identity of someone who is calm. But teachings are boats, not furniture for the mind. They point toward freedom. They are not another load to prove that we are worthy. If any words in this story have helped, let them help. If they have already done their work, let them drift. You do not need to remember every sentence. Sleep does not require a lesson to be completed. The deepest understanding may arrive as the willingness to stop collecting understanding for the night. Imagine the raft resting at the water's edge. Perhaps another traveler will use its branches. Perhaps the river will slowly take it apart. Nothing is wasted. You walk into the forest with empty hands. The path is soft beneath your feet. Without the raft, you can hear more clearly. Small animals move under leaves. Wind passes through cedar trees. Your pace becomes natural. There will be other rivers. When one appears, the wisdom to cross can appear with it. You do not need to carry every future bridge in advance. For now, this is dry land. For now, nothing needs to be built. For now, the weight can remain beside the river. Continue with empty hands. High in the hills, a small monastery kept time with a bronze bell. At dawn it sounded once. At midday it sounded again. At night, the final note moved across the valley and disappeared among the trees. A visitor asked the bellkeeper how he knew when to strike. "Do you watch the sun? Do you count your breaths? Do you follow a clock?" The keeper said, "I strike when it is time. Then I listen until the bell is finished." The visitor noticed that this was true. The keeper never hurried to the next sound. His hand remained still while the note opened, softened, and returned to silence. Much of life trains us to begin the next thing before the present thing is ended. While one person speaks, we prepare an answer. While one task is underway, we remember 3 others. Even as the day closes, the mind has already entered tomorrow. But a bell cannot be heard if each note is covered by the next. Tonight, let this breath be one unhurried bell. The inhale sounds without sound. The exhale spreads through the body. Then there is a small interval in which nothing needs to be added. You do not need to make the breath deep. A bell struck too hard does not become more peaceful. Let the body choose its own volume. Feel the end of the exhale. There may be a pause, almost too small to name. Rest there without holding. The next breath will come when it comes. This is how trust can feel, not knowing the exact moment of return and not needing to force it. The teaching of mindfulness is often described as remembering to be here, not here forever, only here for the duration of one clear note. If the mind travels away, that is simply another sound in the valley. When you notice, listen again. The bell does not resent the birds. The valley does not reject the wind. Awareness can include the breath, a distant noise, a thought, and the weight of the body all at once. Nothing must be isolated. Nothing must be made perfectly quiet. The keeper waits. The fading note becomes softer than the leaves, then softer than memory. At last, no boundary can be found between the bell and the silence around it. Your thoughts also fade when they are not struck again and again. A worry sounds, you hear it. You do not need to repeat it to prove you listened. A memory sounds, you feel its echo. You do not need to call it back when it has begun to leave. Let each thought complete its own note. There is great gentleness in allowing an ending. A conversation can be over for tonight. A mistake can stop being rehearsed. A question can remain unanswered without being abandoned. In the valley, darkness gathers around the monastery roofs. The final bell has already sounded. No one asks it for one more note. The keeper lowers his hand. The trees listen. The night receives the last vibration and asks nothing in return. Let your day end in the same way. One note, one breath, then the wide and unhurried silence. Before sunrise, a traveler began walking through a mountain pass. Mist covered the path. He could see only a few steps ahead. Frightened, he stood still and demanded that the whole mountain become visible. The mist did not answer. He waited for certainty. None came. At last, he noticed a pale stone at the edge of the path, then another stone just beyond it. He took one step. From there, a little more of the road appeared. By walking only what he could see, he crossed the mountain. Uncertainty makes the mind ask for impossible views. It wants to see how every choice will unfold. It wants assurance that love will last, work will succeed, health will remain, and no unexpected weather will come. The wish is human, but the whole mountain has never been visible from one place. Even on clear days, the road bends. Wisdom is not the power to remove every mist. It is the ability to meet the next step without requiring the last step to be known. Perhaps tomorrow contains something uncertain, a decision, a conversation, a result, a blank space where the mind would prefer a map. Notice how the body responds when it tries to see all the way through. The forehead may tighten, the breath may become shallow, thought may run ahead, return, then run ahead again. Gently call the traveler back. What is the next visible stone? Tonight it may be only this exhale. It may be letting the pillow receive the head. It may be deciding that no decision will be made while tired. Small steps are not a lesser form of courage. They are the only kind any traveler has ever taken. The path is not created by worry. It is revealed by contact. In Buddhist teaching, wise attention turns toward what is actually present. This does not deny consequence or planning. It places planning in its proper hour. When there is action to take, act. When there is only mist, do not punish yourself for lacking a view that no one has. Feel this single moment under you, like firm ground. There is a body breathing. There is a surface offering support. There are sounds arriving without a map. For this moment, that is enough information. The traveler walks. At times the mist grows thick, and he slows. At times it thins, and he sees a pine tree or a ridge. He does not claim the clear view will last. He does not claim the mist will last either. Conditions change. What cannot be seen now may become obvious later. What seems urgent at night may become simple in the morning. The mind rested is a different landscape from the mind exhausted. Trust that morning can have its own wisdom. You are not required to borrow it in advance. One pale stone, one quiet step, then another when it appears. Eventually the traveler notices birds calling below him. The pass is behind him. He cannot identify the moment he crossed its highest point. He only knows that by continuing gently, he arrived. Sleep may come this way too, not as a destination you can see and seize, but as a path that reveals itself beneath a softened effort. Let the mist be mist. Let the next breath be enough. In an old courtyard stood a pear tree. Every winter it looked empty. Its branches held no fruit, no leaves, and no visible sign of the sweetness that would come later. A new gardener worried that the tree had stopped growing. He watered it too often. He dug around the roots. He tied small painted leaves to the branches so the courtyard would not appear bare. An older gardener removed the painted leaves. "The tree is not late," she said. "It is keeping winter. There are seasons when nothing visible seems to happen. The mind calls them wasted. It looks for progress that can be counted and displayed. Yet roots deepen in darkness. Soil gathers what has fallen. A living system restores itself without announcing each repair. Sleep belongs to this hidden season. From the outside, a sleeping person appears to be doing very little. Inside, the body sorts, balances, repairs, and remembers. Rest is not an interruption of life. It is one of life's forms. You do not need to tie painted leaves to this hour. You do not need to make the night productive. Even listening can become unnecessary. These words may pass like wind beyond the courtyard wall. Nothing has to be retained. Imagine the pear tree beneath a winter sky. Its branches are dark and simple. It does not compare itself with an evergreen. It does not search the ground for evidence that spring has forgotten. The tree keeps its season completely. Can you let this moment be the season it is? If you are tired, let tiredness be honest. If you are wakeful, let wakefulness be here without turning it into a forecast for the whole night. If healing seems slow, remember that much of healing has no visible leaf. Patience in Buddhist practice is not grim endurance. It is intimacy with the pace of reality. A seed opens on the schedule created by warmth, moisture, soil, and its own nature. Pulling at the stem does not make it grow. There may be something in your life that you have been pulling. A relationship you want to change faster. A grief you want to finish. A version of yourself you believe should have appeared by now. For tonight, release the stem. Let conditions gather without inspection. The old gardener sweeps the courtyard. She does not ask the tree to prove that it is alive. She has seen enough winters to trust what cannot yet be seen. You have also survived seasons that once seemed endless. There were mornings you could not imagine until they came. There were strengths developing before you knew their names. The body resting here is evidence of countless quiet continuations. Feel the patience of the bones. Feel the slow intelligence of breath. Feel how the surface beneath you does not hurry your weight away. Snow may gather on the branches. Wind may pass. Deep in the tree, life is not absent. It is conserving, preparing, and becoming simple. May you become simple for a while. No fruit to offer, no leaf to display, no sign of progress required, only the honest shape of a tree keeping winter. At the edge of a village, a stone wall followed the curve of a field. It was not a high wall. A person could see over it. Wildflowers grew between its stones, and small animals found shelter there when rain came. The wall did not hate the road on one side or the field on the other. It simply showed where planting ended and passing began. Healthy limits can be like this. They need not be weapons. They need not be punishments. A boundary can be a quiet line that lets care remain sustainable. Many gentle people become tired because they believe compassion means leaving every gate open. They carry every request, answer every call, and treat another person's disappointment as proof that they have done harm. But a lamp without a shade burns the eyes. A river without banks cannot move toward the sea. Form allows energy to travel without being lost. Think of one place where your heart has needed a kind limit. You do not need to solve it now. Simply notice whether the body already knows. Perhaps there is heaviness when a certain obligation appears. Perhaps resentment has been trying to speak for a need that politeness would not name. Meet that signal without judgment. The Buddha described a path of compassion joined with wisdom. Compassion feels the suffering of beings. Wisdom knows that no single person can control every cause and condition. Together they create care without ownership. You may wish someone well without managing their entire journey. You may love a person and still say no. You may forgive and still choose distance. You may rest before everyone is pleased with you. Let these possibilities settle softly. No declaration is required tonight. Imagine walking beside the village wall under moonlight. Each stone has a slightly different shape. None could form the wall alone. The spaces between them let water pass. The whole structure is strong because it is not perfectly sealed. Your limits may also be flexible without disappearing. A boundary can change with circumstance. A gate can open in daylight and close at night. A field can welcome visitors and still have a season when the soil must remain undisturbed. What if this night is such a season? Messages can wait. Explanations can wait. The work of being available can wait. For these hours, let the wall gently mark the edge of responsibility. On one side are the actions you can take tomorrow. On the other are outcomes that have never been yours to command. Lay both down where they belong. You are not unkind for having a nervous system with limits. You are not selfish for needing quiet. Rest can protect the tenderness from which genuine generosity grows. The wildflowers between the stones move in the night air. The wall shelters them without closing them away from the sky. May your boundaries become that gentle, clear enough to offer shelter, open enough for wind and rain, strong enough that the field within can sleep. A child once watched clouds cross a full moon. Each time the moon disappeared, he became afraid that it had gone out. His grandmother sat beside him and waited. Soon the cloud moved on, and the moon appeared again. "Where did the moon go?" the child asked. "Nowhere," she said. "Your view changed." The mind often confuses a covered moon with an absent moon. When anxiety appears, it can seem that peace has been destroyed. When sadness arrives, joy may feel impossible. When self-doubt fills the sky, we may believe our worth has vanished. But conditions of view are not the whole sky. This does not mean difficult feelings are unreal. Clouds are real. They carry rain, cast shadows, and change the temperature of the night. Yet they move within something wider. Awareness is sometimes compared to the open sky. Experiences arise within it without becoming its boundary. A thought may be dense and dark. A feeling may cover everything you can currently see. Still, the capacity to know that feeling is already larger than the feeling itself. Notice what is crossing your inner sky now. Perhaps images from the day, perhaps a familiar worry, perhaps only a vague grayness with no clear story attached. You do not need to blow the cloud away. The sky has never needed to push. Let the experience have its natural shape. Where does it begin? Does it remain exactly the same from one breath to the next? Is there an edge, a texture, a movement? Gentle attention reveals change even inside what seems solid. The cloud thins in one place and gathers in another. A little light appears at its edge. Then it covers the moon again. No single view needs to be final. Impermanence is often feared because it means pleasant things cannot be held forever. Yet the same truth is a refuge when pain seems endless. What arises through conditions changes when conditions change. You do not have to know when. You only have to stop declaring this cloud eternal. The child and his grandmother remain beneath the sky. They do not miss the moon by staring anxiously at the place where it should appear. They listen to insects in the grass. They feel the night cooling around them. Life continues under cloud cover. Your life also continues when clarity is hidden. Breath continues. The heart continues. Kindness remains possible in small forms. Rest remains possible without a perfectly clear sky. Perhaps the moon emerges before sleep. Perhaps it does not. Its light is not a test you must pass. Trust the wideness that contains both brightness and shadow. Let the weather move at its own pace. The grandmother wraps a blanket around the child's shoulders. He leans against her. Another cloud crosses. This time, he watches without fear. He knows the difference between what has vanished and what is merely unseen. May you remember that difference tonight. Peace may be covered. It has not gone out. In a busy town, a merchant owned a beautiful room but never entered it. He was always searching for one more object to make the room complete. He bought a finer chair, then a softer rug. He found a lamp, but decided its light required a different table. Each purchase revealed another absence. Years passed. The room filled until there was nowhere to sit. One day, a friend visited and opened the windows. Together they carried most of the objects outside. When only a chair and the warm afternoon light remained, the merchant sat down. For the first time, he enjoyed the room. Enough is not a quantity the mind can calculate. The mind trained by wanting will turn every arrival into the starting point for another search. Enough appears when searching pauses long enough for what is present to be received. Tonight, consider the room of this moment. There is air. There is support beneath the body. There is whatever shelter surrounds you. There is one breath, then another. This may not be everything you want in life. Enough does not mean pretending there are no needs. It means recognizing that this single moment does not have to contain every future fulfillment in order to be lived. The practice of contentment is not resignation. It is freedom from overlooking what has already arrived. Notice one simple thing that is not missing, perhaps warmth, perhaps darkness, perhaps the fact that, for these minutes, no one is asking you to be anywhere else. Let that one thing be fully received. The merchant's old habit may return. He may begin imagining a better window or a more impressive chair. When it does, he can smile. Wanting is not a moral failure. It is a movement of mind. He does not need to furnish the movement. You also do not need to follow each suggestion of lack. The mind may say you need more certainty, more approval, more progress, more time. Sometimes action will be wise, but in the middle of the night, many forms of more are only doors leading away from the room where rest is possible. Close those doors gently, not forever, only for now. The room grows quiet, with fewer objects. Light reaches the floor. Dust moves through the beam like tiny stars. The merchant notices the sound of the town beyond the window and realizes it has always been there. Simplicity reveals what accumulation concealed. Allow the breath to become simple. Allow listening to become simple. Allow yourself to be a person in a room, not a project under construction. Nothing in this moment needs to advertise its value. The chair holds the body. The window holds the light. The hour holds its quiet place in the turning of the world. Let the word enough arrive without argument. Enough effort for today. Enough answers for today. Enough becoming for today. Sit for a while in the uncluttered room. On a cold evening, travelers gathered around a fire at a roadside shelter. They had come from different directions. One was returning home. One was leaving home for the first time. One had lost the road and was too proud to admit it. Another carried news she did not yet know how to share. The fire asked none of them for an explanation. It gave warmth to every hand extended toward it. For a while the travelers were quiet. Their faces appeared and disappeared in the moving light. Each carried a private world, yet all were warmed by the same flame. This is one meaning of belonging. It does not require everyone to have the same story. It does not require perfect understanding. Sometimes belonging is simply the recognition that every being seeks warmth and fears pain. You may feel alone with what is on your mind tonight. The details may be yours alone, yet the wish beneath them is shared by countless lives. The wish to be safe. The wish to be loved without performance. The wish to lay down fear. The wish to rest. In Buddhist practice, compassion grows when we see this common ground. The stranger is not a distant category. The stranger also has a night mind. The difficult person also carries old wounds and unfinished hopes. This understanding does not excuse harm. It frees the heart from needing hatred in order to have wisdom. Imagine the travelers beside the fire. There is room for you among them. You do not have to tell your story. You may sit at the edge of the light and warm your hands. Perhaps you can offer a quiet wish to the person nearest you. May you find your way. To the one returning home, may you be welcomed. To the one leaving, may courage accompany you. To the one carrying difficult news, may you be met with tenderness. Then let the wishes widen beyond the shelter. May those who are working through the night be safe. May those who are caring for someone have support. May those who cannot sleep be free from fear. May those who feel forgotten encounter kindness. You do not need to picture everyone. Compassion is not an assignment to complete. Let the intention be as light as warmth moving outward from a flame, and include yourself. This is important. The fire does not warm every traveler except the one tending it. Kindness that excludes your own life is not yet complete. May I be safe enough to soften. May I forgive myself for being human. May I receive rest without earning it. The travelers add a small piece of wood to the fire. No one claims ownership of the warmth. It passes freely from flame to air, from air to skin. Eventually, one traveler lies down, then another. Their journeys have not become identical, and their questions have not all been answered. Still, for these hours, they share a shelter across the earth. Roofs, trees, bridges, stations, and open skies shelter sleeping beings. May this night be a shared fire among us. Near the end of autumn, one leaf remained on a maple tree. All around it, the branches had become bare. The leaf held tightly whenever wind moved through the grove. Below, the earth was covered with leaves that had already fallen. They did not seem afraid. Rain darkened them. Small creatures moved beneath them. Slowly, they became part of the soil that nourished the tree. The last leaf, believed falling meant disappearing. But the tree knew a larger cycle. Letting go is often frightening because the mind imagines only the moment after release. It does not see the ground that receives, the soil that transforms, or the new form that may come in a season not yet visible. There may be something you are holding at the end of this day, a conversation that has already passed, an image of how things were supposed to be, a small resentment kept alive by repetition. You do not have to tear it away. Letting go by force is another kind of grasping. Simply feel the effort required to hold. The leaf's stem is small, the wind is wide. At first, release may mean only loosening the story around the experience. This happened, it mattered, it hurt, or changed, or disappointed me. And I do not have to become the event forever. The last leaf moves. For one moment it is neither on the branch nor on the ground. It turns through open air, held by conditions it cannot control. Then the earth receives it without judgment. Nothing in nature calls the leaf a failure for falling. Release is not defeat. It is participation in change. The teaching of impermanence can sound severe until we notice its tenderness. Because moments change, pain has openings. Because identities change, we can learn. Because seasons end, no single winter owns the tree. Allow the exhale to be a small autumn. Something leaves the body and is taken by the room. You do not follow it. You do not ask it to return. Another inhale comes from the world. Receiving and releasing are not opposites. They are one movement. If the mind retrieves what you set down, meet it gently. Leaves sometimes circle in an upward current before they settle. This is still falling. There is no deadline for release. The branch is patient. The ground is near. The whole forest is practicing change with you. Let one small thing be carried tonight. Not the whole past. Not every fear. Only what is ready to loosen by the width of a breath. The tree stands beneath the open sky. Bare branches are not empty of life. They have stopped pretending that holding is the only way to remain. Rest in that honesty. There is a point in the night when the village becomes very still. The last door has closed. The last cart has passed. Even the dogs have stopped answering one another across the fields. A watchman walks slowly along the road. He carries a lantern, but he does not try to light the entire village. A small circle around his feet is enough. He knows the darkness is not an emergency. Darkness is part of the rhythm by which living things recover. Flowers close, birds become quiet. The eyes release their work of finding edges and names. The mind may have learned to fear what it cannot see, yet not seeing can also be mercy. For a while, details soften, distance disappears. The world stops presenting itself as a list of things to manage. You are entering the deepest part of this story now. The language can become simpler. Nothing new needs to be learned. Feel the body as one quiet shape. No need to visit each part. No need to change the breath. The watchman takes another step. Lantern light touches the road, then another step. If a thought appears, let it stay outside the small circle of attention. It does not need to be chased. It can remain in the dark without becoming dangerous. The road knows where it is even when the watchman cannot see its end. Your body knows how to move toward sleep even when the conscious mind cannot witness the crossing. Trust what happens beyond supervision. The heart continues. The breath continues. Night continues. The watchman reaches a bench beneath an old tree. He sets the lantern beside him. For the first time he notices how much light the stars have been offering. Not enough to turn night into day, enough to let night be night without feeling abandoned. May you have that kind of light. Not an answer for everything, only enough kindness for this moment. Not certainty about tomorrow, only enough trust to stop walking for a while. The lantern flame becomes smaller. The road is quiet. The watchman closes his eyes. No one asks him to guard the darkness from itself. Let the words grow distant now. Let them become part of the sound of the night. You do not have to follow. You do not have to remember. Rest is already nearer than the next thought. Beyond the village was an orchard no one visited at night. In daylight, people came with ladders and baskets. They examined the fruit, counted what was ripe, and discussed what the season might yield. At night, the orchard belonged to no plan. The trees stood beneath the stars. Fruit grew by changes too small for anyone to watch. Roots received the dark soil. Branches moved when the wind moved and became still when it passed. Imagine walking there now. The path is pale in moonlight. Grass touches the edges of your feet. There is nothing to harvest. This is important. Not every hour is for gathering results. Some hours are for allowing what has already been planted to continue without interference. You may have planted many things today: a kind word, an honest effort, a difficult boundary, a question that will need time. You cannot stand over each seed through the night and command it to open. The orchard teaches a quieter trust. Conditions do their work beyond your sight. Someone may understand your words later. A problem may become clearer after rest. The body may repair what attention cannot reach. Walk past the first tree. No need to inspect its branches. Walk past the second. No need to compare its fruit. The whole orchard is released from measurement. Can you release yourself from measurement too? For this hour, there is no score for how well you rested. There is no perfect depth of calm. There is only the natural movement from effort toward less effort. If the mind counts, let it count distant trees until numbers lose their importance. One tree in shadow, another in moonlight, another almost invisible near the hill. Soon they become one dark orchard breathing beneath the sky. A pear loosens from a branch and settles into the grass. No one hears. No one records the moment. Completion can happen without an audience. May some part of your day complete itself that quietly. May what is not complete be allowed another season. There is a bench near the end of the path. Sit there in imagination. Let your back be supported. Let the orchard surround you with patient life. Nothing to gather, nothing to prove has grown. Only trees keeping the night. An old tailor was known for mending the robes of travelers. He never tried to hide every repair. When cloth had torn, he chose thread that was strong and stitched slowly. The finished seam remained visible, a small line showing where care had entered. One traveler felt ashamed of his patched robe. "Everyone will see that it was damaged," he said. The tailor answered, "They may also see that it was worth mending." Many people carry an image of healing in which no mark remains. We want to become the person who was never hurt, never afraid, never lost. When an old feeling returns, we think the repair has failed. But a life is not made whole by erasing its seams. Wholeness can include evidence of care. Think gently of one place in you that has been mended. Perhaps trust grew back slowly after disappointment. Perhaps you learned to ask for help. Perhaps you continued through a season when continuing was enough. You do not need to revisit every detail, only recognize the quiet thread. Someone cared for you, or you learned to care for yourself. Time placed one stitch beside another. The cloth did not become its former shape. It became a shape capable of carrying the journey onward. Compassion does not demand that scars disappear before rest is allowed. The tailor bends beneath his lamp. His hands are patient. He does not blame the cloth for having met a thorn. He does not blame the traveler for having walked a difficult road. Can you offer yourself that same plain mercy? The body has carried weather, work, fear, love, and change. It may hold tension where it once needed protection. Thank it for trying, then let the next stitch be softness. One softer breath around the chest, one small release in the belly, one moment in which nothing about you is treated as a problem. The robe is folded when the work is done. Tomorrow it will return to dust and sunlight. Tonight it rests beside the traveler's bed. Its seams do not glow with shame. They are simply lines of return. May every repaired place in you be permitted to rest. May you remember that needing mending never made you less worthy of warmth. In the middle of a slow river was a small island of smooth stones. During the rainy season, much of it disappeared beneath the water. When the river lowered, the stones emerged again, washed clean and shining. A heron often stood there on one leg. It did not ask the island to stop the river. It needed only one stable place within the movement. When life feels uncertain, we may search for a place where nothing changes. Such a place is difficult to find. Bodies change, relationships change. Plans meet conditions we did not choose. Practice offers something more realistic than permanent certainty. It offers a small island in the present, not an escape from the river, a place to stand while the river moves. Feel one point of contact in the body, perhaps the back against the bed, perhaps the cheek against the pillow, perhaps the hands resting wherever they have come to rest. Choose only one. Let it be the smooth stone beneath the heron's foot. Around it, sensation changes, breath rises and falls, sounds arrive and leave, thoughts alter their shape. The point of contact may also change, but for this breath it is enough. The heron is not rigid, its body makes countless tiny adjustments. Balance is not the absence of movement, it is a living relationship with movement. You do not need to become perfectly still inside. You may sway and return. A worry may pull attention into the current. When you notice, feel the stone again. A memory may lift like a fish beneath the surface. Let the rings widen and fade. There is no penalty for returning many times. Returning is the practice. In the rainy season, even the island is covered. Then the heron rests in a tree. Wisdom does not insist on one refuge. It uses the support available now. Tonight, support is here in some form. Gravity holds you to the earth. Air reaches the lungs. The night has made a place around this hour. Rest on the small island of one sensation. Let the river move without asking it to become land. One stone, one breath, one quiet place within change. Rain begins over the village. At first, only a few drops touch the roof. Then the sound becomes steady, thousands of small arrivals joining one another. No drop needs to be remembered. Listen in imagination as rain moves across tiles, leaves, paths, and fields. The roof does not hold each drop. It receives, then releases. Water travels to the edge, gathers for a moment, and falls again. Let thoughts meet awareness in the same way. A thought touches, a thought moves, a thought leaves the edge of attention. There is no need to name its destination. Some drops are loud, some can barely be heard. None become permanent residents of the roof. If one thought repeats, it may be like water falling from the same corner. Repetition does not make it a command. It is simply a familiar path formed by many previous rains. You can hear it without climbing onto the roof to stop it. Stay inside the quiet shelter of the body. The room is dim, the air is cool. Rain does what rain does. Mind does what mind does. Awareness remains spacious enough for both. In the fields, dry earth is softening. Dust becomes dark soil. Small roots receive what has traveled from the sky. Not every restless night is wasted. Even here, patience may be entering places that have been dry. Even here, the practice of not fighting may be changing the ground. You do not have to search for the change. Let the rain reach it. The sound becomes gentler. Drops are farther apart now, one on the roof, one in the leaves, one in a pool beside the road. The spaces between sounds grow wider. Rest in those spaces, then let the next drop come. No need to predict it, no need to count. The storm is already passing because all storms are processes, not places. The roof shines under clouded moonlight. Water continues toward the river. Inside, the village sleeps. Late at night, there is a soft knock at the door. The guest is a feeling you know. Perhaps worry, perhaps sadness, perhaps the old sense of not having done enough. In the past, you may have barred the door. The guest knocked harder, or you may have invited the guest to take every room in the house. Tonight, try another way. Open the door and offer a chair near the entrance. You may sit here, you say. I will not throw you into the night, and I will not give you the whole house. The guest sits. Seen clearly, it may appear less powerful. Worry is a tightening, a collection of images, an urge to prepare. Sadness is weight, heat, emptiness, or tears. A feeling is an experience moving through a body, not a ruler arriving to take possession. Ask nothing of the guest. Do not demand a reason. Do not insist it leave before sleep. Your hospitality is the simple willingness to stop making war with what has already arrived. The guest notices the quiet house. It hears rain finishing outside. It sees that no argument is being offered. After a while, its shoulders lower. Feelings often change when they no longer need to defend their right to exist. If this guest remains, let it remain near the door. The rest of the house is still yours. There are rooms of breath. There are rooms of bodily warmth. There are rooms with windows open to the night. Awareness is larger than any visitor. Perhaps the guest falls asleep in the chair before you do. Perhaps it quietly leaves. Perhaps, by morning, you find only an empty cup beside the door. No outcome is required. Compassion has already changed the meeting. Let every part of you know. Nothing needs to be exiled tonight. Nothing needs to govern the whole house either. The door is closed gently against the cold. The lamp is lowered. The house returns to quiet. Somewhere beyond the hills, dawn is preparing without hurry. No line divides the last darkness from the first light. The sky changes by degrees too subtle to measure. Before dawn, the village remains asleep. The road is empty. The orchard is still. The river carries a faint reflection of the stars. You do not need to wait for morning. Morning knows how to arrive without being watched. This is true of many things. Answers can arrive when the mind is no longer standing over them. Strength can return without a report. Sleep can enter between one word and the next. Let this be the hour in which you stop waiting. Not because nothing matters, because the night is capable of holding what matters until light returns. Place tomorrow beyond the hills. You cannot see it from here, and you do not need to. The world is turning toward it already. Feel how little effort that turning requires from you. No muscle in your body must move the earth. No thought must lift the sun. Great processes continue without personal command. Let yourself belong to that order. Breathing, resting, changing by degrees. The stars begin to pale, but no one in the village notices. Their lack of attention does not delay the dawn. Your lack of supervision will not delay what is ready to heal. Release the watch. Release the measuring. Release the question of how much night remains. There is only this gentle darkness, complete in itself. Soon the river will carry us back to the final quiet. Until then, do nothing. Let morning prepare beyond the hills. In a village by the sea, a lantern hung at the end of a long wooden pier. No one remembered who had placed it there. Fishermen used its light when they returned before dawn. Children watched it from the shore when storms moved across the water. Travelers who had lost the road looked for its small golden point beyond the dunes. Because the lantern helped so many people, the villagers began to argue about who owned it. The fishermen said it belonged to them because they depended on it most. The families near the shore said it belonged to those who kept the pier in repair. A wealthy merchant offered to buy it and place his name on a brass plate beneath the flame. While they argued, an old woman walked to the end of the pier and trimmed the wick. "Whose lantern is it?" they asked her. She looked at the light falling across every face. "The lantern does not know," she said. "Kindness often works this way. It does not become brighter when someone claims it. Light reaches whoever stands near enough to receive it. Think of the kindness that has reached you without a name. A road made safe by hands you never saw. A tree planted before you were born. A sentence written by someone who never knew you would need it. The patience of a stranger on a difficult day. Your life has been touched by countless quiet lamps. The idea of a separate self can make us believe we must create everything alone. We count what belongs to us, what came from us, and what proves our worth. Yet every breath depends on forests and oceans. Every word depends on generations of voices. Even the body is sustained by sunlight transformed into food. This does not make your life less precious. It places your life inside a much larger generosity. Tonight, you do not need to own the peace that comes. If a story helps, let it help without turning it into an achievement. If the breath softens, no one needs credit. If sleep arrives, there is no medal to win and no method to defend. The lantern simply burns. Wind moves over the pier. The flame bends behind its glass and rises again. Far out on the dark water, a small boat changes direction. Perhaps you have also been a lantern without knowing it. A word you offered may have traveled farther than you saw. A small act may have steadied someone whose private storm was invisible to you. You do not need to collect proof. Goodness is not wasted because its path is hidden. The old woman finishes trimming the wick and walks back toward the village. No brass plate is added. The fishermen return to their boats. The merchant returns home. The light remains available to all of them. Let the boundaries of ownership soften for a while. This breath is borrowed and returned. This night belongs to no one. This quiet light asks for no name. Two villages stood on opposite sides of a marsh. For many years, people crossed on a narrow bridge woven from reeds. The bridge was repaired each spring. No single reed was strong enough to hold a person, but thousands bound together carried baskets, children, and tired travelers safely above the water. A young builder disliked the bridge. "It bends," he said. "A true bridge should never move." He built a rigid walkway from heavy timber. During the dry season, it seemed perfect. But when the rains came, the marsh rose and the earth shifted. The timber cracked because it could not yield. The old reed bridge lifted gently with the water. We often confuse strength with hardness. We think a strong mind never doubts, a strong heart never grieves, and a strong person needs no support. But what cannot bend may break under conditions that living flexibility could meet. Feel how the breath moves the body. The ribs open and close. The belly rises and falls. Life is supported by structures that know how to move. Perhaps today asked you to be strong. You may have held a difficult conversation, carried responsibility, or continued while something inside felt uncertain. You do not have to remain rigid now. Night can be the hour when the reeds loosen. Let the face become less arranged. Let the spine be supported rather than displayed. Let the mind admit that it does not know everything. There is dignity in flexibility. The Buddhist path often returns to conditions and interdependence. Nothing stands entirely by itself. The reed bridge is strong because many small things share the weight. In the same way, your life is held by people, places, habits, and forms of care that may be easy to overlook. You are allowed to be one reed among many. You are allowed to receive support. Think of the surface beneath you as the woven bridge. It is already carrying what you release. You do not make it stronger by holding your own weight above it. Settle by degrees. One muscle releases, then another. One thought loosens from the thought before it. If emotion moves through you, let the bridge move. Feeling is not collapse. A tear, a sigh, or a moment of uncertainty may be the living structure adjusting to water. Outside the villages, rain touches the marsh. The woven reeds darken and become supple. Travelers cross slowly, trusting the give beneath their feet. By morning, The water will begin to lower. The bridge will settle into a slightly different shape. No one calls this failure. A bridge is not required to remain unchanged in order to carry people home. Neither are you. Let strength become gentle enough to bend. Let support be shared. Let the marsh rise and fall beneath a bridge that knows how to move. During the night, snow fell on the steps of a small hillside house. By morning, every mark from the previous day had disappeared. The prints of muddy boots, the groove left by a heavy basket, and the small tracks of birds were covered by one quiet surface. The owner of the house stood at the doorway and hesitated to step outside. The snow is perfect, he thought. I will ruin it. But the steps were not made to remain untouched. He placed one foot into the white morning, then another. Behind him appeared a simple path. We sometimes imagine peace as a condition that must never be disturbed. If a thought appears during meditation, peace is ruined. If worry returns after a calm day, healing is ruined. If we make another mistake, progress is ruined. But living peace is not an untouched field. It includes the next honest step. The mind leaves tracks. Experiences leave tracks. Some are deep and remain for a long time. Others vanish in the next change of weather. Awareness is the wide ground that can receive them all. Consider a track from today. Perhaps something you said keeps appearing in memory. Perhaps you wish you had chosen differently. The mind walks over the same place, making the groove deeper through repetition. Tonight, let snow fall around it. This does not erase responsibility. It creates enough quiet to see clearly. Tomorrow, if an apology or action is needed, you can take that step. Rehearsing shame through the night does not make the step more sincere. Forgiveness can begin as fresh space around an old mark. Imagine each breath as a light snowfall. It does not argue with the ground. It does not decide which tracks deserve to be there. It settles where it settles. The whole hillside becomes softer at its edges. Fences, stones, and branches remain. But nothing looks as sharp as it did before. May the sharp edges of the day soften this way. You do not need to preserve a perfect state. If a thought crosses the quiet, let it leave one temporary print. If another follows, let that one be received too. The snow is not offended by footsteps. The ground does not become less ground. The owner walks down to the road. When he looks back, the path behind him is not a wound in the morning. It is evidence that someone has begun again. Beginning again is central to practice. Attention wanders, and we return. The heart closes, and when conditions allow, it opens a little. We forget what matters, then remember. No return needs to be dramatic. One foot, then another. Tonight, you may let the snow cover what does not need another examination. Tomorrow, a new path can be made with awake and rested feet. At the center of a forest was a pond so still that people called it the mirror. Travelers came to see their faces in its surface. Some were pleased by what they saw. Others leaned closer, searching for flaws. One traveler became angry when wind moved across the water and broke his reflection into pieces. An old forester sitting nearby said, "The pond has not broken you." The traveler waited. When the wind passed, the image gathered again. We suffer when we treat every reflection as the self. A reflection may come from another person's opinion, from success or failure, from a photograph, a memory, or the mood of one difficult hour. We look into these surfaces and say, "This is what I am," but the image depends on conditions. Light changes it, wind changes it, the angle of looking changes it. The pond does not hold a permanent face beneath its water. Perhaps something reflected you harshly today. A response was colder than you expected. A task exposed what you do not yet know. The mind may have carried that image into the night as though it were a final portrait. Let the pond be moved by wind. What appears distorted under one condition can become clear under another. A tired mind is a particular kind of weather. It exaggerates shadows and forgets the depth beneath the surface. You do not need to decide who you are while the water is restless. Feel the breath arrive like air moving through trees. It may create small ripples and sensation. Nothing is wrong. Under the reflection is water. Under the water is earth. Around the pond is a forest that does not need your image to remain stable. The teaching of not self is not a claim that you are unreal. It is an invitation to stop mistaking changing appearances for a fixed owner. The face in the pond is real as a reflection. It is simply not the whole traveler. Your roles, thoughts, and moods are also real as experiences. They deserve care without becoming a prison. The traveler sits beside the forester. Together they watch clouds cross the pond. A bird touches the surface and leaves rings behind. Moonlight appears between branches. Many images come. The pond keeps none of them. This is why it can reflect the next thing completely. Tonight, allow the mind to be less occupied with preserving a picture of you. You do not need to appear wise. You do not need to appear calm. You do not need to appear healed. Let appearance change with the water. Rest as the life that is deeper than any reflection. A cook in a mountain refuge prepared rice for travelers. Some days 10 people arrived. Some days no one came. Each morning, she washed the same iron pot and measured what was needed for that day. A visitor asked why she did not cook enough for the whole week. Because today has one bowl, she said. Tomorrow has its own. The mind often tries to eat tomorrow's meals tonight. It plans conversations that have not happened, answers questions no one has asked, and carries imagined difficulties as if they were already present. By the time morning comes, we may feel exhausted by events that existed only as rehearsal. Planning has a wise place. It allows seeds to be planted and journeys to be prepared. But planning without a boundary becomes another form of hunger. No amount of future thinking makes tomorrow fully available now. What belongs to this one bowl of time? Perhaps only rest. Perhaps the recognition that you have done what can be done today. Perhaps one note placed where morning will find it, followed by permission to stop. Imagine the cook setting the bowl before you. Steam rises gently. She has not added next week's grain or yesterday's empty dishes. The bowl contains enough for the meal that is here. Receive this breath in the same way. One breath does not need to sustain the whole night. It only needs to be this breath. The next will have its own beginning. Contentment grows when the mind learns the size of the present container. In a bowl, the rice is not small. It is complete as a meal. In this moment, simple support is not insignificant. It is what life is actually offering. Notice one present support: the steadiness beneath your body, the temperature around your skin, the fact that you can let these words pass without answering them. You may still have real concerns. The cook does not deny winter because she prepares one meal. She keeps grain in the storehouse and repairs the roof before storms. Yet at night, she closes the door. The storehouse does not need to be counted again while she sleeps. Trust what has already been stored. Your experience will be available when it is needed. The people who can help still exist beyond this hour. Morning will bring information that night cannot provide. The visitor finishes eating. He notices that one warm bowl has changed the whole feeling of the journey, not because it solved every mile ahead, but because it met the mile he had reached. Let this night meet you where you are. No week supply, no lifetime answer, only one bowl, warm in the hands. A small bird lived for many years in a wooden cage beside an open window. Its keeper cared for it gently. Each morning she brought seeds and water. One spring day, she opened the cage door. The bird remained on its perch. The sky was visible. Wind entered the room. Still, the bird waited for the door to close again. Freedom can feel unfamiliar when we have practiced confinement for a long time. A habit of worry may be painful, yet it is known. Constant planning may exhaust us, yet it creates the feeling of doing something. Even self-criticism can seem protective, as though harshness will prevent future mistakes. When another possibility opens, the mind may stay on the old perch. There is no need to shame it. The bird learned the shape of safety inside the cage. It will need time to discover that the room and sky can also hold it. What door may be open tonight? Perhaps you are free to postpone a decision until morning. Perhaps you are free not to replay a conversation. Perhaps you are free to rest even though someone else remains unhappy. The mind may not fly immediately. Let it remain near the opening. Feel the air moving through. Freedom begins before action. It begins when we recognize that a familiar pattern is not the only available place. In Buddhist teachings, liberation is often described as release from clinging and confusion. This release is not forced. We see more clearly, and the grip becomes unnecessary. The door was not opened by violence against the cage. It was opened by understanding what the cage could no longer provide. The bird hops closer. One foot touches the threshold. Outside, a branch moves in sunlight. The bird does not know every tree or where it will rest by evening. The whole sky cannot be inspected in advance. It only feels the next current of air. You also do not need to understand all of freedom tonight. Let one thought go uncompleted. Let one self-judgment pass without agreement. Let one question remain outside the cage of immediate answers. These are small flights. At last the bird opens its wings. It crosses the room and lands on the window frame. It looks back at the perch. Nothing about the years inside is denied. The cage was shelter once. Now its open door is part of a different kindness. When the bird enters the sky, it does not carry the cage to prove that it survived. May whatever has protected you be thanked. May whatever has become too small be opened. May you rest near the threshold without pressure to fly before you are ready. The night air is already entering. A traveler climbed a mountain to ask an important question. He had carried the question for years. He believed that somewhere above the clouds, a wise answer was waiting. When he reached the summit, wind moved over stone. Ravens circled below him. No teacher appeared. The traveler shouted his question into the valley. The mountain returned only an echo. Disappointed, he asked again. The echo came again, softer each time, until the final word disappeared. Then he heard what had been beneath the question all along: wind, wings, and his own breathing. Some questions are answered through language. Others become less urgent when we listen beyond the demand for an answer. The nighttime mind often assumes that relief is hidden inside the correct conclusion. It turns a question repeatedly, believing one more thought will reveal the summit. Why did this happen? What should I do? What if I choose wrongly? What does this say about me? These questions may deserve attention, but attention and repetition are not the same. A question shouted into the valley does not become clearer simply because the echo returns. Listen for the echo in your own mind. A phrase may repeat with slightly less force. You may answer it, then answer your answer. See whether you can let the final word fade. What remains beneath it? The body breathing, the room holding its temperature, sound existing without explanation. The mountain's answer is not that questions are foolish. It is that reality is larger than the part that can be arranged into words. The traveler sits on the summit. His question remains, but it is no longer the whole landscape. It becomes one small sound among wind and stone. This change is enough. You do not need to destroy a question in order to rest. Give it a smaller place. Let it sit at the edge of awareness rather than at the center of every breath. Tomorrow, from another altitude, you may see a path that is hidden now, or you may learn to live wisely without the certainty you expected. Both are forms of understanding. Clouds move below the summit. The traveler realizes that the valley he feared has held his voice gently and returned it without judgment. He does not shout again. The ravens descend toward the trees. Evening gathers around the distant paths. The mountain remains silent, not because it refuses him, but because silence is also a way the world answers. Let your question become quiet enough to hear the night around it. Let the echo finish. Let the mountain be wide. Behind a carpenter's workshop lay a piece of cedar that had never been shaped. Customers came and chose polished tables, boxes, and chairs. They admired the smooth surfaces and careful joints. The cedar remained beneath the eaves, marked by weather and still carrying the rough outline of the tree. An apprentice asked what it would become. The carpenter placed a hand on the wood. "I do not know yet," he said. That is part of its value. We are often uncomfortable with what has not been defined. We want to know the purpose of every season, the meaning of every difficulty, and the final shape of the person we are becoming. We treat uncertainty as unfinished work that should already have been carved. But a life still open to possibility is not defective. The uncarved wood can become many things because the first cut has not been forced. Perhaps there is an area of your life without a clear shape: work, belonging, love, or the direction of a changing identity. The mind may be drawing plans late into the night. For now, let the cedar remain cedar. No decision made from exhaustion needs to define it. No comparison can reveal its grain. No label improves the patience of waiting for the right use. Buddhist practice invites direct contact with what is present before concepts harden around it. Before something is called success or failure, there is an experience. Before you are called ahead or behind, there is a breathing life meeting conditions. Rest near that earlier simplicity. Feel the body before naming how it should feel. Hear a sound before deciding whether it is pleasant. Let the moment be rough-edged and complete. The carpenter does not neglect the cedar. He keeps it dry and turns it with the seasons. Patience is not abandonment. It is care that does not rush form. You may care for your future in the same way. Protect what matters. Notice the grain. Wait when waiting is wiser than cutting. One winter, a storm damages the workshop door. The carpenter brings out the cedar. Its curve fits the old stone opening better than any board he had planned to use. What seemed without purpose had been ripening toward a need no one could predict. Not every uncertain part of you will resolve so neatly. The story is not a promise that everything has a hidden design. It is a reminder that lack of definition leaves room for relationship with what comes. Tonight, you are not required to carve yourself into an answer. Remain open-grained. Remain unfinished in the living sense. Rest beneath the eaves while night moves through the scent of cedar. At an inn beside a trading road, a large clock hung above the hearth. Travelers checked it constantly. One feared missing a morning cart. Another counted the hours until he reached home. A merchant calculated how much work could fit before sunset. An old guest sat beneath the clock without looking up. "Do you not care what time it is?" the innkeeper asked. The guest smiled. "The clock is useful," he said, "but I do not have to carry it in my chest. Time helps us meet one another. It organizes trains, meals, work, and rest. Yet the mind can turn time from a tool into a weight. We measure how far we should have come by a certain age. We count how long grief has lasted. We compare our pace with someone walking another road. At night, even sleep becomes a calculation. If I fall asleep now, I will have this many hours. If I am still awake in 20 minutes, tomorrow will be ruined. The clock moves from the wall into the body. Notice whether you are carrying it tonight. You do not need to know the exact hour for the next breath to happen. The body experiences rhythm, darkness, warmth, and fatigue. It does not sleep by solving arithmetic. Imagine returning the clock to the wall. It may continue ticking. You do not need to stop it. Let time be information outside you rather than a judge inside you. The old guest has known many kinds of hours. An hour waiting for news felt longer than a day of walking. An afternoon with an old friend disappeared quickly. The clock measured both in the same units, but life did not experience them as the same. This is why a sleepless minute can feel enormous. Attention presses against it, asking it to end. See what happens when the minute is no longer treated as an obstacle. It becomes room for one inhale, room for one exhale, room for a distant sound to arrive and leave. Nothing more has to fit. The Buddhist teaching on impermanence reminds us that time is not a collection of solid blocks. Conditions arise and pass continuously. We cannot hold a minute still enough to possess it, and we do not need to push it away. The inn grows quiet. Travelers go to their rooms. The clock remains above the hearth, keeping an agreement for morning. The old guest closes his eyes. He has returned what was borrowed. You may return it too. Morning can find its own hour. For now, let the clock stay on the wall. A traveler once searched for a temple where he could finally feel peaceful. He visited a temple beside a river, but boats and voices distracted him. He climbed to a temple in the mountains, but wind rattled the shutters. He found a temple deep in a city, but footsteps echoed through its halls. At each place, he thought, peace must be somewhere quieter. One evening, caught in rain, he took shelter beneath a broad tree. There were no walls, no altar, and no bell. Water fell from the leaves. Mud covered his sandals. Too tired to continue searching, he listened. For the first time, he did not ask the place to become different. The shelter beneath the tree became the temple he had been seeking. Sacred space is not always a location without disturbance. It can be the quality of meeting disturbance without demanding that it leave first. You may have imagined that rest requires perfect conditions, a quieter room, a calmer mind, a life with fewer loose ends. Those conditions can help, and it is wise to create them when possible. But if peace depends on the world never making a sound, it remains very fragile. Listen to what is present now. There may be a hum, a passing vehicle, a floor settling, or the sound of your own breath. Let each sound be rain falling beyond the shelter. The temple does not need walls to keep experience outside. Awareness can become wide enough to include it. The traveler feels water near his feet. He notices irritation. Then he notices that irritation is also part of the evening. Once admitted, it no longer needs to stand at the gate shouting. What have you kept outside the temple of rest? Perhaps restlessness itself. Perhaps the belief that you should be calmer. Perhaps a body sensation you have been resisting. For one moment, let it enter without ceremony. Nothing is made holy by denial. Practice becomes honest when the whole weather of the moment is allowed. The tree bends under rain. Its roots hold in dark earth. The traveler leans against the trunk and feels support that had been available before he named it sacred. Peace arrives as the end of searching for a different scene. This does not mean you must remain in harmful conditions. Wisdom moves away from danger and seeks needed care. But ordinary discomfort is not always a command to abandon the present. Sometimes the next refuge is the breath already here. The rain softens. In the distance, the traveler hears a temple bell from one of the places he left behind. Its sound crosses river, road, and open field without needing a wall. He smiles beneath the tree. The temple was never only a building. Let this night be a shelter without walls. A stone rested all day in sunlight beside a garden path. After sunset, a child picked it up and was surprised to find it warm. "Where is the sun?" she asked. Her grandfather pointed toward the dark horizon. "Gone from our view," he said, "but not gone from everything it touched. We carry warmth from moments that have ended. A person may no longer be near, yet something learned in their presence remains. A season may have passed, yet strength gathered there continues in the way we meet the next season. A kind word may be years old and still change the temperature of a difficult night. Impermanence does not mean that nothing matters because everything changes. It means that contact leaves conditions for what follows. The sun does not stay in the stone forever. The warmth is real while it is here. Think of one warmth you carry. Perhaps the memory of being welcomed. Perhaps a skill someone patiently taught you. Perhaps the knowledge that you survived a day you once feared. You do not need to summon a perfect memory. Let the body recognize any small trace of support. The child holds the stone between both hands. Darkness surrounds the garden, but her hands are warm. This is not denial of darkness. It is a more complete experience of it. Grief and gratitude often live close together. We grieve because warmth mattered. We are grateful because, even when a form changes, life has already been touched. If someone comes to mind, you may offer them a quiet wish. May the good that passed between us continue without being held too tightly. If the memory is complicated, let it be complicated. A stone can carry warmth and still have rough edges. You do not need to simplify a whole relationship in order to receive what was kind within it. The grandfather and child walk toward the house. She keeps the stone in her pocket. Slowly it cools. She does not become angry with it for changing. Its cooling is part of the same honest world as its warmth. Tomorrow the sun may touch it again. Tonight, your body also releases the heat of the day. Breath carries warmth outward. Muscles cool and soften. This is the body entering night, not losing what it needs. Let memories be warm stones, not burdens you must keep heated by constant thought. Hold one gently, then place it beside the path. What mattered has already touched you. A farmer once believed he worked alone. He woke before sunrise, carried water, repaired fences, and harvested grain with his own hands. When neighbors offered help, he politely refused. "I should be able to manage my field," he said. One year, heavy rain damaged the road. The farmer could not bring his grain to market. He stood beside the broken crossing and felt that all his labor had failed. By midday, neighbors arrived with shovels, stones, ropes, and food. Some repaired the road, others moved the grain to dry ground. Children carried small branches away from the water. Looking around, the farmer realized his field had never been his work alone. Rain had watered it. Insects had pollinated nearby trees. People he had never met had made his tools. Seeds had been saved through generations. The road itself had been built by hands long gone. His two hands had always been joined by 1,000 others. Independence can be useful. It helps us take responsibility and develop confidence. But the belief that we should need nothing from anyone can turn dignity into loneliness. No life is self-made. Even the most private rest depends on a world of support. Walls, fabric, electricity, roads, medicine, knowledge, and care. Notice whether you have been demanding impossible independence from yourself. Perhaps you think you should already know how to handle something no one taught you. Perhaps you are ashamed of needing reassurance. Perhaps asking for help feels like adding weight to someone else's life. Compassion remembers that giving and receiving move in both directions. The neighbor who helps today may need help in another season. A field survives because care circulates. Tonight, let yourself be one part of that circulation. Feel support beneath you as the work of many hands. Someone designed what holds you. Someone transported materials. Someone kept systems moving while you slept on another night. You do not need to name them all for the support to be real. The farmer joins his neighbors at the road. He still lifts stones, but now he notices that his effort is one movement inside a larger effort. The work becomes lighter without becoming less sincere. At sunset, they share food beside the repaired crossing. No one keeps a perfect account of who carried what. The road is open because enough hands arrived. May you remember the unseen hands in your life. May you allow your own hands to rest when others and the earth are carrying what they can. You were never required to hold the whole field alone. In a house at the edge of the village, a candle burned through the last hours of night. Its flame had been useful. A midwife used it while caring for a family. A traveler used it to read a letter. An old man used it to find medicine on a shelf. Near dawn, the candle had become very small. The old man considered lighting another, but pale light had begun to gather at the window. "The candle does not have to become the sun," he said. "Effort is precious when effort is needed. We focus, organize, protect, and continue. But effort becomes exhausting when it tries to perform the work of conditions larger than itself." You may have been a candle for others today. You offered attention, solved problems, remembered details, or stayed steady when someone needed steadiness. Perhaps you are still trying to keep that flame high even though the hour has changed. Night is not asking you to become the sun. Let the effort become smaller. The candle does not fail when dawn arrives. Its work belongs to darkness. When another kind of light becomes available, the flame can be released. What larger support is arriving for you now? the body's own drive toward restoration, the passing of time without your management, the possibility that morning will reveal what cannot be seen tonight. You do not need to create these processes, you only need to stop competing with them. The old man watches the room slowly emerge from shadow. A chair becomes visible, then the table, then the outline of the door. Nothing appears all at once. Rest may also gather by degrees. The mind becomes less interested in one thought. The body feels heavier. Words begin to lose their edges. No single moment announces the crossing. Trust the gradual light. If you remain awake, let awareness be a small candle rather than a searchlight. It can rest on one breath, one sound, one point of support. Nothing more needs illumination. The teachings are not a demand to shine continuously. Wisdom includes knowing when a light has completed its task. The old man cups one hand around the flame. For a moment, warmth touches his palm. Then he extinguishes it. A thin line of smoke rises and disappears in the growing blue of morning. The room is not abandoned. Another light has already begun. Let your effort become small enough to end. Let dawn do what belongs to dawn. A traveler crossed many hills with a wooden walking stick. On steep paths, he leaned on it. In shallow streams, it helped him test the stones. At night, he placed it beside his blanket where he could reach it quickly. One afternoon, the road became level and soft. Still, the traveler pressed his full weight into the stick. His shoulder began to ache. A companion asked, "Is the road steep?" "No," the traveler said. "Then perhaps the support can be carried lightly." We sometimes continue leaning after the difficult ground has changed. A strategy that helped during danger may remain active during safety. The mind keeps scanning, the body stays braced. We prepare for an impact that belonged to another part of the road. This is not foolishness. The walking stick was useful, and the body learned to trust it. Change begins with noticing the ground beneath the present step. Is this moment steep? Is there something to solve in this exact breath? Or is the body leaning into an old expectation? You do not have to throw away the stick. Wisdom does not reject what once supported us. Let the grip loosen, feel the hands. They may be holding nothing, yet small muscles can still carry the shape of grasping. Let the fingers rest in their natural curve. Feel the shoulders. Allow them to discover that the road is level here. Trauma, stress, and long responsibility can teach the nervous system to expect steep ground. Patience is needed. One calm thought will not command the whole body to trust. Safety is learned through repeated contact with moments in which bracing is not required. Let this be one such moment. Not proof that difficulty will never return. Only evidence that right now support is present. The traveler begins carrying the stick at his side. His shoulder lowers. He notices flowers near the road that had been hidden by the effort of watching his feet. If the path becomes steep again, the stick remains available. Rest does not make you unprepared. It lets tools return to being tools rather than permanent extensions of fear. The road enters a meadow. The travelers stop beneath a tree. The walking stick rests in the grass. For these hours, nothing needs to lean. Let the earth be level beneath you. After harvest, a farmer walked through an empty field. All summer, the field had been full of movement. Seeds opened, stalks rose, insects traveled between flowers. Workers came with baskets and carts. Now only short golden stems remained beneath the evening sky. A visitor looked across the quiet ground and said, "There is nothing here." The farmer shook her head. "The field is resting," she said. "Rest is not nothing." Under the soil, roots were softening. Fallen leaves were becoming nourishment. Rain was entering layers of earth made hard by summer heat. The field had stopped producing what could be carried away and had begun restoring what could not be seen. Human worth is often measured by harvest. What did you finish? What did you earn? What can be shown, counted, or praised? By those measures, sleep appears empty. A resting person offers no visible product. Yet without the hidden field, no future harvest is possible. You are allowed to have an unproductive season within each day. These hours do not need to justify themselves by improving tomorrow. Rest has value before it becomes useful. Imagine the empty field under starlight. No one asks it to grow through the night. No one attaches fruit to its stems so it will appear successful. The field belongs to a cycle larger than display. Perhaps you have felt empty after giving much of yourself. Instead of treating that emptiness as failure, consider whether it may be space asking for replenishment. What has been carried away can be met with nourishment, warmth, quiet, food, company, time without demand. You do not need to provide all of these now. Simply stop asking the field to produce from depleted soil. The farmer closes the gate. She trusts the darkness to perform work that daylight cannot supervise. Frost may come, rain may come. Seeds dropped during harvest may wait months before opening. Nothing hurries underground. Let your own hidden processes remain hidden. You do not need to feel yourself recovering for recovery to begin. You do not need to know what this rest will become. The field sleeps too. Lie quietly within the same living cycle. A boatman carried passengers across a broad lake. During the day, he knew every current. He adjusted the oar when wind changed and guided the boat around stones near the shore. One night, after the last passenger had gone, he pushed the empty boat onto the water. The lake was calm. Moonlight made a path from one shore to the other. Out of habit, the boatman began rowing. After a while, he noticed that the boat was already drifting toward home on a gentle current. Each stroke disturbed the surface and turned the bow away from the moonlit path, so he lowered the oar. There are times when skill means action. There are also times when skill means recognizing that action is interfering with what is already carrying us. Sleep belongs to the second kind. You cannot row yourself into unconsciousness. You can prepare the boat, leave the noisy shore, and stop making unnecessary strokes. Feel whether the mind is still rowing. One more adjustment, one more evaluation of whether you are relaxed. One more check of how much time remains. Let the oar rest across the boat. The current may be subtle. At first, the boatman believes nothing is happening. Then he looks at the stars and sees that the shoreline has moved behind him. Rest often begins before the mind recognizes it. The breath becomes quieter. The body gives more weight to the surface beneath it. Thoughts lose some of their power to demand a response. Do not interrupt these small movements by asking them to prove themselves. The lake knows its own slope toward the river. The body knows pathways older than conscious instruction. Trust does not require certainty about when you will arrive. It is the willingness to stop adding force where force is no longer useful. The boatman places one hand in the water. It is cool and steady around his fingers. He hears a night bird from the reeds. The empty boat moves without hurry. Soon the lake will narrow and join the river that has followed us through these stories. Nothing needs to be carried there by effort. Lower the oar. Let the moon remain unbroken on the water. Let the current bring us toward the final quiet. We return now to the river beneath the moon. The water has been moving through every story, whether it was named or not. It moved through the cup on the windowsill. It moved beneath the traveler's raft. It gathered in the cloud and touched the winter soil. Nothing kept it in one form, and still nothing was lost. You have listened long enough. There is no final teaching to collect, only a few quiet reminders. The day has ended. The unfinished can remain unfinished. Pain does not need the second arrow of self-blame. Thoughts are weather, not commands. The rolls you carry may hang beside the door. The gate to rest was never locked. The muddy water may settle by itself. The heart can open one window. The raft can remain beside the river. The bell can finish its note. The mist needs only one visible step. The tree is allowed to keep winter. The field is protected by kind limits. The moon remains when clouds pass. This moment can be enough. The shared fire includes you. The last leaf is held by the earth. The orchard can grow without being watched. The mended robe is worthy of warmth. The heron needs only one small island. Rain can travel across the roof without being kept. Every feeling may sit near the door without owning the house. Dawn prepares beyond the hills. The lantern gives light without needing a name. The reed bridge is strong enough to bend. Snow makes room around yesterday's tracks. The pond is deeper than any reflection. One bowl is enough for this hour. The cage door may remain open without pressure to fly. The mountain lets the echo finish. The cedar does not need to know its final form. The clock can stay on the wall. The temple has no walls to defend. Warmth remains in what the sun has touched. 1,000 unseen hands are sharing the weight. The candle is not required to become the dawn. The walking stick can rest on level ground. The field is sleeping too. The boatman has lowered the oar. All these images have done what they came to do. They were never objects to carry into morning. They were small boats across a few moments of wakefulness. If one remains in memory, let it remain lightly. If none remain, the listening is complete. The river does not keep a record of every leaf that touched it. It does not count each reflection of the moon. It receives the mountain rain, the narrow streams, the water from village roofs, and the quiet springs beneath the earth. Then it continues, your awareness has received many words tonight. It does not need to organize them. It does not need to decide which was most important. Understanding can settle below language, the way water enters soil without leaving a sentence behind. Let the stories become distant lights along the shore. One by one, they pass behind the boat. No need to turn and look. The current is gentle. The night is wide. Now even these reminders can go. Imagine each one written lightly on the surface of the river. The current blurs the letters. The words lengthen into silver lines, then become only moonlight. No wisdom is harmed by being released. What is true does not depend on being repeated through the night. Let the forehead become smooth. Let the space behind the eyes be dark and wide. Let the jaw rest in its natural place. Let the shoulders belong to gravity. Let the hands be empty. Let the breath come from far away and return far away. There is nowhere else to arrive. The river makes no effort to reach this moment. It is already passing through it. If you are still awake, you are not behind. If sleep has begun to gather at the edges of awareness, you do not need to help it. Either way, you are held in the same night. May whatever has been tight begin to soften. May whatever has been lonely feel the company of all breathing life. May whatever has been searching be permitted to stop. May the body remember its ancient belonging to rest. The moon remains above the water. The traveler beside the river has set down every name. The fire is low. The bell is silent. The gate stands open. Nothing needs to be solved tonight. Nothing needs to be carried farther. Rest now, rest now, rest.